this. I think today I'll just copy the problems up here as we come across them. So number 21 is f of x equals 2/3 to the x power plus 2 or positive 2. So there it is in your book. And let's get started. Step 1 says to place the horizontal asymptote on the graph. Okay, well, if you'll look at this function, here's the number being added or subtracted, positive 2. So my horizontal asymptote is right there at positive 2. Step 2 says take the exponent, set it equal to 0, and solve. Well, there's really no solving to do, so x equals 0. Step 3 says to take that number and put it in a table of values. In the middle, a table of values that holds 5 ordered pairs. So there we go. We'll go up to 1 and 2, and we'll go down to -1 and -2. The next step says to fill in your table of values. So here we go. We'll put 2 in for x. Well, if you're going to type this into your graph, it would look like this. Parentheses, 2/3, then arrow button, then x, and then plus 2. You can put parentheses around the x if you want to, but you don't have to. If it was x plus or minus something like -3, then you'd have to put parentheses around the exponent. But we don't have that situation. So it would look like this in your grapher. And then go to your table of values, and you can fill this in. Okay, let's put a 2 in for x right here. If you put a 2 in for x right there, you would have 2/3 to the second power plus 2. Alright, so type that into your calculator. 2/3, be sure and put parentheses around your 2/3. 2/3, and raise that to the second power. You should get 0.4 repeating, plus 2, 2.4. Now let's put a 1 in for x. Alright, we'll put a 1 in for x. Right here, a 1. So we have 2/3 to the 1 power. Anything to the 1 power is just itself. So we have 2/3, positive 2. That's 2 and 2/3, or if you want, 2.6 repeating. Alright, moving on to 0. We're going to put 0 in for x. So I have 2/3 to the 0 power. Well, remember, anything to the 0 power is 1. So this becomes 1, positive 2. So 3. Next I'm going to substitute -1 in for x. -1. So I have 2/3 to the -1 power. So positive 2, type that into your calculator. If you type in 2/3 to the -1 power, you're going to get 1.5. Okay? 1.5, and then positive 2, so 3.5. And then we'll substitute -2 in for x, and we'll be finished. So 2/3 to the -2 is going to give you, let's see, that would be 9/4. It should be 2 1/4. I think you get 2.25. Let's type it in and see. 2/3 raised to the -2 power on your calculator will be 2.25 plus 2, so 4.25. So guys, we're ready to sketch the graph. One ordered pair is 2, 2.4, so over 2, up 2.4, about right here. And then over 1, up 2.6, and then 0, up 3, and then -1, 3.5, and then -2, 4.25, so about right here. So this is kind of a wider curve, as you can see. So then some of them will have a wider curve, some will be a little narrower. But there you go. And eventually like this. Alright, so there we go. There's your exponential graph. Okay guys? Alright. Let's move on to number 3. Or excuse me, number 23. F of x equals 1/4 to the x minus 1 power. And let's get after it. Here we go. Step 1 is to place your horizontal asymptote on the coordinate plane. Well, there is no number right here, Mr. Earhart, that's being added or subtracted. Yeah, but that's part of your exponent. We're talking about a constant term being added at the beginning or the end of the function. say up here, I don't mean a number being multiplied. I mean something like 2 plus, something like that, okay? There is no number here, so I'm going to put plus 0 like I've taught you to do. So now I know that my horizontal asymptote is going to fall right on the x-axis. Right there. There's my horizontal asymptote, okay? Now, step 2, take your exponent, set it equal to 0 and solve. Here's your exponent, set it equal to 0 and solve. X equals 1. So in the middle of my table of values, I will put a 1 for the x value. So if there's a 1 here, I'll go up to 2 and 3, and I'll go down to 0 and negative 1. And here we go. The first number I will put in for x will be 3. So 3 minus 1 is 2. I have 1/4 to the second power. That means 1/4 times 1/4 is going to give me 1/16. And 1/16 is 0.0625. Now, if you don't like that, what I just did, just type in your calculator parentheses 1/4 arrow 2. Alright? And if you'll do that, you will then get out 0.0625. Let's move on now and substitute 2 in for x. So we put a 2 right here. 2 minus 1 is 1. So I have 1/4 to the 1 power. Anything to the 1 power is itself, so you can put 1/4 here or put 0.25, whatever you prefer. Next for x, I'm going to substitute 1 in. Here's a 1 right here. I'll put a 1 in for x. 1 minus 1 is 0. So I have 1/4 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So I will put a 1 right here. Now let's substitute 0 in for x. If I put a 0 right here, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. So I have 1/4 to the negative 1 power. Now, that's going to give you 4. Now, if you don't believe me, then type this into your calculator. Type in parentheses 1 divided by 4, arrow negative 1, hit enter, and you'll get 4. And then lastly, we're going to substitute negative 1 in for x. And so, negative 1 right here. So negative 1 is negative 2. So I have 1/4 to the negative 2 power. Now, if you type that into your calculator, you will get 16. Okay? And of course, you would type in parentheses 1/4, close your parentheses, arrow negative 2. And if you do that, then you will get 16. By the way, just really quick, I don't want to bore you guys, but how am I getting 16? Well, guys, you really should be able to figure this out. There's a 1 here and a 1 here. Take the negative 2 and multiply it through. Negative 2 times 1 gives you 1 to the negative 2. Negative 2 times 1 gives you 4 to the negative 2. Bring the 4 up top, it becomes 4 to the positive 2. Bring the 1 down to the bottom, 1 to the positive 2. 4 times 4 is 16. 1 times 1 is 1. 16 over 1. Now, you do not need to know any of that. If that confused you, don't worry about it. But some of you understood that, and it kind of helps you see what we're doing, okay? But you're welcome to use your calculators. By the way, if you type this into your grapher, you should have typed it in like this. Parentheses, 1/4, close your parentheses, arrow, parentheses, x minus 1, close your parentheses. You must put parentheses around your exponent in this problem. Unlike the last problem, we had one term in the exponent, so we didn't need parentheses around it. Here we have 2 terms. We have x minus 1, so you must put parentheses around the exponent. Alright, okay, let's plot our points over 3, and we're up 0.06, so barely above that line. 2 is 0.25. 1 is 1, so 1, 1. 0 is 4, so 0, 4. And then negative 1 is way up here somewhere at 16. And you do not have to plot that if you don't want to. 7, 14, about right there. So this one, as you can tell, shot up a lot more quickly than the other one we just had. Okay, this last one's a little wider, and this one's a little kind of narrower. It takes a lot quicker of turns, like this. And there we go. It's getting closer and closer to my horizontal asymptote, never touching it. And this one, as it goes up, will continue to gradually go more and more to the left. Alright, let's take a look at number 25. Number 25. And here we go, number 25. F of x equals 5 to the x plus 3 power. 5 to the x plus 3 power. Alright, and here we go. First of all, we're going to plot our horizontal asymptote. We'll go a little faster now. We've done 2 of these. We'll go a little faster. There's no number being added or subtracted, so I can put plus 0. Alright, which helps me see I have a horizontal asymptote right here that falls right on top of my x-axis. Step 2, take your exponent, which is right here. Take your exponent, set it equal to 0, and solve. Bring your 3 over and make it a negative 3. And that will go. Step 3 says to put that negative 3 right in the middle of your table of values. So this negative 3 goes right here in the middle. I'll go up to a negative 2 and a negative 1, and then down to a negative 4 and a negative 5. And we are ready. So let's go ahead and knock this out. We're going to put a negative 1 in for x right here. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. So I have 5 squared, which would be 25. Pretty simple. Now let's substitute a negative 2 in for x. So I'm going to put a negative 2 right here. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So I have 5 to the 1 power. 5 to the 1 power is obviously 5. Now we'll put a negative 3 in for x. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. If you type this into your graph, it would have looked like this. 5 exponential parentheses x plus 3. That's how you would type that into your grapher, and then go to your table of values. Alright? Okay, moving on. We'll put negative 3 in for x. We'll put a negative 3 right here. Negative 3 positive 3 is 0. Anything to the 0 power, of course, is 1. So, 1. Now we'll put a negative 4 in for x. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So I have 5 to the negative 1. Alright? If you type that in your calculator, 5 to the negative 1 power, you're going to get 0.2. And then lastly, we'll substitute negative 5 in for x. And if we put a negative 5 in for x right here, we have negative 5 positive 3. That's negative 2, so 5 to the negative 2. If you type that into your calculator, you will get 0.04. And of course, you would type that in by putting being negative 2. Sorry about that. 5 arrow, then negative 2. Alright? Now, my first order pair, we're ready now to sketch the graph on the coordinate plane. My first order pair is way up at 25 on the y-axis. I do not require on tests or quizzes or homework for that matter for you to plot that point if you don't want to, but it's still important. It's mandatory to put that point in your table of values. Reason being is it helps you see how quickly the graph is shooting upward, okay? So I'm not going to worry about putting that function, that ordered pair on the graph, but I'm going to come back to it later. Okay, negative 2, 5. There's negative 2, 5. Negative 3, 1. Negative 4.2. So negative 4.2. And then negative 5.04 way down here. Now we know negative 1 is way up here at 25 somewhere. So this thing is really shooting up quickly. It looks like it's almost going straight. And we know it's not. To the naked eye, it looks like it's going straight, but it's not. And this, of course, is getting closer and closer to the horizontal asymptote, but it's never crossing it. Okay? And there we go. Alright, moving on to number 27. 27. The problem looks like this. F of x equals 5 to the x power, and then negative 4. So your exponent is just x, okay? And there is a number being added or subtracted to the entire function, and that is -4. So I have a horizontal asymptote at -4. So that's my step one. Horizontal asymptote at -4. Now, next step, take your exponent, x, set it equal to 0 and solve. Well, x equals 0 is just x equals 0. So my middle value will be 0. It gives me a nice middle value for the graph. Go up 1 and 2, go down -1, -2. And we are ready to fill in our table of values. So here we go. Let's substitute 2 in for x. Put a 2 right here. That's 5 squared minus 4. 5 times 5 is 25 minus 4 is 21. Next we're going to substitute 1 in for x. So we have 5 to the 1 power minus 4, -4. Well, 5 to the 1 power is 5, and 5 minus 4 is 1. Next we're going to put a 0 in for x. A 0. 5 to the 0 power is 1. And 1 minus 4, or 1 -4 is -3. Now we're going to put a -1 in for x. A -1, so we have 5 to the -1 minus 4. Now, with your calculator, type in 5 arrow -1 and hit enter. And if you do that, you will get 0.2. And then of course hit -4, and you will get -3.8. The next number we're going to substitute in for x will be -2. So we're going to put a -2 right here for x. So we have 5 to the -2 minus 4. 5 to the -2 is going to give you 0.04. 0.04 and then minus 4. -3.96. You see it's getting closer and closer to -4. But it's never going to cross it or touch it. Okay? Alright, my first order pair is 221, so over 2 and way up here, somewhere up below arrow. My next order pair is 1, 1. My next order pair is 0, -3. My next order pair is -1, -3.8. So -1, -3.8. And then -2, -3.96, so a little closer. And so again, you can see the curve. You can see what the exponential graph is doing. Okay? And of course it would continue up and up like this. And as it continues up, it'll go gradually to the right. This will continue going down, but it will never cross. It will never touch -4. Never. Okay? And so there we go. Not too bad. Halfway done with the homework assignment. Let's take a look at 4 more of these. Alright, number 29. Number 29. If you'll look in your book, you will see the problem reads as follows. F of x equals 1/3 to the x power. 1/3 to the x power. And x, I forgot a negative sign here, didn't I? A negative sign right there. Okay, now, step 1 is to put the horizontal asymptote on the coordinate plane. Now, guys, you can see there's no number being added or subtracted, so it's like there's a 0 there. So my horizontal axis, or excuse me, my horizontal asymptote will be at 0. Next, I'm going to take my exponent and set it equal to 0. Well, my exponent is x, so when I take x and set it equal to 0, there's really no solving to do, okay? So 0 will go right in the middle of my kind of twisted, bent table of values there. Put a 0 here, go up 1, go up 2, go down -1, go down -2. And now we are ready to roll. Let's put a 2 in for x, a 2. So -1/3. Oh, let me stop. How would you type this into your grapher if you're going to use a grapher? Well, you would type your negative sign first, right here, then parentheses, then 1/3, then close your parentheses, then arrow x. You are more than welcome to put parentheses around the x, but you don't have to because it's just one term. There you go. That's how you would type into your grapher. Alright? Okay. So, I bring down my negative sign. If I square 1/3, one third times 1/3 is 1/9. So I have a negative 1/9. If you like decimals, that's a negative 0.1 repeating. Alright, negative 0.1 repeating. Alright, let's put 1 in for x, so we'll put a 1 right here. So negative 1/3 to the 1 power. Now, bring down your negative sign. 1/3 to the 1 power is just itself 1/3, and of course negative 1/3 is negative 0.3 repeating. Alright, let's substitute 0 in for x. 0. I have negative and then 1/3 to the 0. Now be careful, some students think the answer is just 1. But remember, the 0 is not an exponent to the negative sign. You bring the negative sign down, and then 1/3 to the 0 power is 1. So when you put 0 in, you get out negative 1. Alright, moving on to now putting a negative 1 in for x. So negative parentheses 1/3 to the negative 1 power. Okay? Now, first of all, bring down your negative sign, okay? Next, with your calculator, if you type in 1/3 to the negative 1 power, you do it like this. 1/3 in parentheses to the negative 1 power, you'll actually get out 3. There's a negative sign here, so negative 3. Next, we're going to substitute negative 2 in for x. And so we would have a negative sign, then 1/3, and then a 2. Well, first of all, or a negative 2, excuse me. Now, first of all, bring down your negative sign, and then with your calculator, if you type in 1/3 to the negative 2nd power, you will get 9. There's a negative sign there, so negative 9. Type it in like this, guys. 1/3, arrow, and then negative 2 for your exponent, and you'll get out 9. Okay, let's plot these points. 2, negative 0.1, 1, negative 0.3, 0, negative 1, negative 1, negative 3, negative 2, negative 9. So down here somewhere. So there's the graph. Put a little arrow on it there. It's going to come up, hit here, start to do its curve. It'll get closer and closer to the horizontal asymptote, but it will never touch it. Alright? And there we go. Moving on to number 31. F of x equals negative 2, and then x plus 2. Well, guys, here we go. Step 1 says to take the horizontal asymptote and place it on the coordinate plane. Hopefully you see by now this is my exponent. It has nothing to do with the horizontal asymptote. I have no number being added or subtracted, so I can imagine there's a 0 there. So my horizontal asymptote will be at 0. And there we go. Now, up next, step 2, take your exponent and set it equal to 0 and solve. X equals negative 2. Next step, take your negative 2 and put it right in the middle of your table of values. So go up to negative 1 and 0, go down to negative 3 and negative 4. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and get good to work here. For x, I'm going to put a 0. 0 plus 2 is 2, so I have negative 2 to the 2nd power. Now remember, there's no parentheses in the original problem, so your base is not a negative 2. Your base is 2. You bring down the negative sign. 2 times 2 is 4, so negative 4. Next, we're going to substitute negative 1 in for x. Put a negative 1 right here. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1, so I have negative 2 to the 1 power. Bring your negative sign down. 2 to the 1 power is 2, so I'll put a negative 2 right here. Next, I'm going to substitute negative 2 in for x. Put a negative 2 right here. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So negative 2 to the 0 power. A lot of you just think the answer is 1. Hold on. You bring your negative sign down. 2 to the 0 power is 1, so we get a negative 1. Oh, should have said this at the beginning of the problem. Sorry guys, if you're going to type this into your grapher, it would be negative, then 2, no parentheses. Don't put parentheses around it, because there's no parentheses here. Arrow, and then parentheses, because your exponent has more than one term. There you go. That's how you would type it into your grapher, okay? Alright, now let's substitute negative 3 in for x. If you put a negative 3 here, negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So I have negative 2 to the negative 1. Now bring your negative sign down. 2 to the negative 1 is 1 half, or 0.5. Feel free to type that in your calculator. 2 to the negative 1 power will give you 1 half, or 0.5. Bring down your negative sign. Negative 0.5. And then lastly, we're going to substitute negative 4 in for x. So put a negative 4 right here. Negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2, so negative 2 to the negative second power. Bring down your negative sign. 2 to the negative 2 is 1/4. So negative 1/4, or negative 0.25. So here we go. 0, negative 4. 0, negative 4. Negative 1, negative 2. Negative 1, negative 2. Negative 2, negative 1. Negative 2, negative 1. Negative 3, negative 0.5. Negative 3, negative 1 half. Negative 4, negative 0.25. Negative 4, negative 1/4. So the curve's going to come up, hit right here, and kind of flatten out. Alright, and it's going to continue like this. Like that, okay? There's the graph, just like that. Okay, guys? Moving on to number 33. We'll do these last two pretty fast. We've done 6 already, so we'll go pretty fast here. F of x equals negative, and then parentheses, 1 half to the x minus 3 power, and then plus 7. Plus 7. Alright, so my horizontal asymptote is the first thing I'm going to worry about. My horizontal asymptote is at positive 7. So here it is. Right there, positive 7. Okay? I knew that because of this number right here. Now, next, take your exponent, x minus 3, set it equal to 0 and solve. X equals 3. So right in the middle of your table of values, we're going to put 3. Put a 3 right here. We'll go up to 4 and 5, and we'll go down to 2, negative 1. Okay? Now, let's get to work. Let's put a 5 in for x. What's 5 minus 3? 2. So I have negative 1 half to the second power plus 7. If you type this into your calculator, you will get negative 0.25 plus 7, which gives you negative 6.7, or excuse me, positive 6.75. Okay? Type this into your calculator right here. Not the negative sign. You bring the negative sign down, and you type 1 half to the second power, and you get 0.25. Alright, let's go ahead and substitute 4 in for x. What's 4 minus 3? 1. So I have negative, and then 1 half to the 1 power, and then positive 7. Now, bring down your negative. 1 half to the 1 power is 1 half. And of course, a negative 1 half plus 7 would be 6 and 1 half, or 6.5. Alright, moving on, we're going to substitute 3 in for x now. 3, and by the way, if you type this into your grapher, it would have looked like this. You type your negative sign, then parentheses, then 1 half, then arrow, then parentheses, x minus 3, close your parentheses, and then plus 7. If you'll type that into your calculator, then you will get out the correct table of values. Alright? Okay, moving on, we're going to substitute 3 in for x now. 3 minus 3 is 0, so I have negative, parentheses, 1 half, 0 power, plus 7. Bring the negative sign down. Anything to the 0 power is 1. And then bring down your positive 7, so you'll get a 6. Alright, next we're going to substitute 2 in. for x. 2. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So negative, then 1 half, then negative 1, then positive 7. Bring down your negative sign, okay? If you type into your calculator 1 half to the negative 1 power, you will get 2. And then bring down your positive 7. So you will get out a positive 5. And then next, substitute negative 1 into your graph, or into x. Negative 1. Now hold on, this should be a positive 1, shouldn't it? This should be a positive 1, sorry about that. So we're going to substitute positive 1 in for x. 1 minus 3, put a 1 right here. 1 minus 3 is negative 2, so negative, and then 1 half, and then negative 2, and then positive 7. Bring down your negative sign. If you type into your calculator 1 half to the negative 2, you will get out 4, and then bring down your positive 7, which would give you a 3. So here we go, let's plot our points, okay? 5, 6.75, so 3, 4, 5, 6.75. 4, 6.5, so 4, 6.5. 3, 6, so over 3, up 6. 2, 5, over 2, up 5. And then 1, 3, over 1, up 3. So you see a little bit of a bend right there taking place. And even if you didn't see the bend, you know it's going to happen. It's an exponential function. And then we'll continue this going down like this, alright? And there it is, guys. We've done quite a few, so not too difficult. Last one, number 35. Let's finish well. Let's do this and see if we can hopefully do well in this last graph. Negative 5 to the x plus 1 power minus 2. Okay, first of all, obviously your horizontal asymptote, by now you should see it, is at negative 2. That's the number that's being added or subtracted to the function, alright? So, my horizontal asymptote is negative 2. Next step, take your exponent, x plus 1, set it equal to 0 and solve. X equals negative 1. Now, right in the middle of your table of values, we're going to put a negative 1. So we'll go up to 0 and 1. We'll go down to negative 2, negative 3. And let's get started. Let's substitute 1 in for x. 1 plus 1 is 2. So I have negative 5 to the second power minus 2. Now, I'm not squaring the negative sign because there was not parentheses like this. Okay? So bring down your negative. 5 squared is 25, and then negative 2. So negative 27. That'll be a point that we're not going to put on our graph, but we'll still use it for a point of reference. Next, I'm going to substitute 0 in for x. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So negative 5 to the 1 power, negative 2. Bring down your negative sign. 5 to the 1 power is 5, negative 2. So negative 7. Next, we're going to, you can tell now, guys, I'm going pretty fast. This is our 8th one. Oh, by the way, if you type this into your graph, it would look like this. There's no parentheses here, so don't put any. Just put negative 5, arrow, then do put parentheses, because your exponent is 2 terms, and then close the parentheses, and then negative 2. Type that into your graph, and you should be fine with your table of values. Okay, put a negative 1 in for x. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So negative 5 to the 0 power, negative 2. Bring down your negative sign. 5 to the 0 power is 1. And then bring down your negative 2, so you get a negative 3. Next, we're going to substitute negative 2 in for x. So we'll put a negative 2 right here. Put a negative 2 right here. Negative 2 plus 1 is a negative 1. So negative 5 to the negative 1, negative 2. Now, this negative sign, there's no parentheses, so the negative sign is not with the 5. Bring it down. 5 to the negative 1, if you'll type that into your calculator, 5 to the negative 1, you'll get 0.2. Alright, so we have negative 0.2 minus 2, that's negative 2.2. Alright, negative 2.2. And then lastly, we're going to substitute negative 3 in for x. So put a negative 3 right here. Negative 3 plus 1 is a negative 2. So negative 5 to the negative 2 minus 2. Bring down your negative sign. If you type into your calculator 5 to the negative 2 power, you will get 0.04. And of course it's negative because you brought down your negative sign, and then negative 2. So negative 2.04. Okay? And let's plot these points and we are home free. 1, negative 27 way down here. 0, negative 7. Negative 1, negative 3. Negative 2, negative 2.2. Negative 3, negative 2.04. So there it is. It shoots down pretty quickly. And don't forget, way over here at 1, we're way down to negative 27. So it shoots down really quickly, guys, okay? And comes across here and is gradually getting closer and closer to the asymptote. And that's it, okay? I hope this homework help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions at all, never hesitate to call or